rewind up to a few years ago, corporal punishment was, well, I don't know if it was the norm in schools, but it happened, and it happened a lot, I thought. Then it all changed on March 21, 2017, when a motion was called to prohibit the act. But it turns out that this isn't being adhered to by all schools across the island. We are told, and here to talk to us some more, Executive Officer of the National Parenting Support Commission. Another Kesia is with us this morning. This is Kesia Carr, and Director of Safety and Security in Schools, ASP Coleridge Minto. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good
Welcome
morning.
to Smile Jamaica. Let me start with you, ma'am. You know corporal punishment. Your group agrees with that.
Absolutely. So the National Parenting Support Commission is an agency of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. So we're in full support of the ministry's policies. And in fact, our commission really was established to implement the national parenting policy. The policy has 5 goals. Goal number 3 speaks to positive parenting practices in the whole process of disciplining children. So that runs in direct conflict to that particular policy.
I remember at St. George's College, my principal, in a very serious way, hit me with a ruler in my hand, the middle of my hand, which was, I think, the norm at the time. And if it isn't, Georges, don't come down on me. Is that corporal punishment, sir?
It can be.
Is it?
It is. Any form of physical altercation or interaction with a child, whether by using a belt, a cane, as we call it then, or a ruler, will be considered as corporal punishment.
Even in my hand middle.
Even in your hand middle.
Slapped on my shoulder or my back, but even in the hand middle, that's corporal punishment.
It is considered as corporal punishment.
Okay, so I know it's one thing to say don't do it. How are we going to get people not to do it? Because if I've been doing it for a while with my own children, or I grew up on corporal punishment, to say overnight, stop doing it, what are the realistic ways in which we're going to get parents to stop doing it?
Well, we can agree that this is something that culturally is acceptable. And the fact that I just concluded a national survey, and what the survey is already saying is important and alarming in some instances. So I know this is something that's entrenched in who we are. And that's a generalized statement. So it's going to take a lot of education, a lot of efforts that are very intentional on our part to ensure that people understand why this practice is one that we should desist because of the harms of using it. So the last time I was here, Neville, I remember you pointed to persons who presented with maladaptive behavior. The fact is we can't beat a maladaptive behavior out of a child. Many times those behaviors present because of chemical imbalances, because of trauma that persons don't even know about because they never delved and they never investigated. And children sometimes don't have the language to express themselves, so they act out. When you introduce corporal punishment on top of pain that some children are already experiencing, then it causes even deeper harm. So we're saying very, very strongly as a commission, no corporal punishment.
So what I'm saying, Casey, is I'm watching Smile Jamaica right now.
Yes.
And I'm a mother. Me want to grow me 7 picnic them. And I'm watching me say, make me scare say she and that she have 7 picnic to take care of. What are the, that's why I said realistic ways that we're saying to parents, if you don't do corporal punishment, then this will work.
Right.
Because if they don't have an option, they're going to keep beating each other.
Right. And we have been training parents. We have been giving them other options. But like I said daily, I continue to say the structures need to be put in place early. When you don't put certain things in place early, then children they deviate from that. So they become deviants. If you have already had situations where your children are teenagers, for example, you have quite a few of them, then we can come in as a commission. You need to come to our workshops. We'll come to you on the corner in your homes and show you some other things that you can do with your children. One of the things you need to do first, though, is to encourage conversation, encourage dialogue with the children. You can't assume that children won't understand why a limitation has been put in place. More often than not, the boundaries are placed there for their own protection. So we need to first have that conversation with the children. And sometimes parents too don't have the language. So we help you with to understand how do I communicate with my teenager who is already going through all kinds of hormonal changes.
Yep.
Let me help you to have those conversations so that we all can come to some agreements as to what the expectations ought to be. And then, of course, you release some of the boundaries as the children get older. So because they also, you know, I tell my son, who is now grown, that this is his appraisal. I've done my job. So now I couldn't have the same boundaries that I had when he was
Yeah.
a teenager or younger.
School
So
administrators who continue to punish students with beatings have been warned by the ministry to desist as they run the risk of disciplinary action being taken against them. ASP, what does that mean first? And who is the action taken against? The school, the teacher who did it, the principal? What does that mean?
So the school boards report to the ministry or to the minister. If a teacher, a principal, and person in the school administers corporal punishment, then they are in violation to the ministry's policies. It is expected that the school board will then act to administer disciplinary actions against the teacher or the individual who did the
Have
corporal
you guided
punishment.
the school board as to what kind of action they can take?
Well, the school boards, they are persons who are of a high standing, you know, and so they normally take action. Where they don't, then the ministry steps in and give directives so that it is dealt with. Certainly, though, and I want to point out very quickly, Neville, there are two things that happens. So the ministry instructs that this matter be dealt with from a ministry's perspective. When a teacher administers corporal punishment, quite often the parent or the guardian also goes to the police. So there, from a criminal perspective, there's another thing that is running
So
concurrent
the
with
teacher
the
could actually
disciplinary
be
action.
charged for hitting.
So in some cases,
Yeah.
there's a disciplinary action and there's also a criminal action that is taking place against the individual who administers corporal punishment.
I'm asking the same question, but so can the teacher be what? Suspended, fired?
Sure, the teacher can be suspended, the teacher can, services can be terminated,
Yeah.
amongst other things that they will do. I mean, I wouldn't want to speak to what boards do, but generally, I'm saying if a member of a school is operating ultra-virus to the policies of the ministry, then the board ought to direct that.
In my opening, I said it changed March 2017. Can't remember the exact date. What have you heard since then? Is there a lessening of what you thought was happening, or what have you
I
heard?
perhaps want to go back a little earlier than March
2017.
2017,
Right.
because I've been at the ministry 5 years and we've been talking about this for 5 years.
Right.
We certainly have seen fewer reports now coming to the ministry. In earlier years, we have had a lot more reports of corporal punishment. Certainly since the start of the school year, I may have only received 2. It was far more in earlier
But
years.
are we seeing more reports of indiscipline? Because I want to play devil's advocate and say, so what are the ways then that we're saying to teachers? Because I see the complaints. I go and I touch people picnic, make them stay there and run wild like goat. So do we run the risk of having children that will lack discipline?
Well, from our perspective in the ministry, and we track violence in schools, we track behavioral issues in schools. Between 2012 and 2018, we have seen a downward decline of the number of reports coming to the ministry. Last year perhaps was our record year in seeing far fewer than the previous year in terms of the number of incidents.
Okay.
One of the things that we're doing too is that we have been strengthening the capacity of our teachers to deal with students. And let's put it on the table. We do have indisciplined children in our school. And the ministry, we do not support any student that is deviant to behave. But the way to do it is not to use corporal punishment, is we'll have to run them out of school. There are many ways to deal with
brought up
them.
a point about that mother with 7 kids. So my mother used to beat the daylight out of me. So I'll be thinking, say, I gotta run go over daylight yard, but I know if she catch me, I go and get some licks. So I don't go. But if I know she not going to lick me, she just go and cuss me and tell me go in the room. You don't run the risk, as daylight said, that I go and go still and say, well, me not get no licks. Does that not happen at school to the students? No, well, the teacher them can't lick me now. So I can do what I want and get away with it.
But the other question, have we looked to see whether or not the behaviors have been corrected by those children who are recipients of corporal punishment? I've not seen that data that shows that they have been remediated through that process.
So you're saying that if I
right.
misbehave and you lick me, it don't necessarily mean that we stop misbehaving.
That's right. That's
you're
right.
saying.
And the other thing too is that parents need to be on board with the school.
Yeah.
You know, we need to have those conversations with the parents from the get-go, from orientation. You need not to be shy about what the school's expectations are. And then we work together to put measures in, come up with contracts, social contracts. We let the parents sign to say, should my child run differently from what the expectations are, then these are what the outcomes will be. But we have to have those conversations up front. When home and school are on the same page, behaviors improve, academic and social behaviors. And the ministry has put in several measures. I was a part of a committee, if you will, that looked at a timeout facility, for example, for children who present with maladaptive behaviors.
Time out in this case means what?
Right, meaning that
We
the
have
children,
two up and running now,
right.
started at the start of the school year, one in Kingston and one in Manchester. What it really means is that where you have a student that presents a challenge in the school, as against expelling the child or suspending, you put them in a program for a particular period where you can do perhaps a more targeted intervention in a controlled environment without disrupting the education of the child.
Process.
We got
Right.
the wrap-up signal.
Yes.
It's a tough job. Great to see you both.
Thank you.
Hope it
Thank you
works.
for having us.
Well, you couldn't devote when my mother did devote.
Because he is an example that corporal punishment
It
does
doesn't
not
work.
SPU, the lap up, my mother. Executive Director of the National Parenting Support Commission, Casey Carr, and Director of Safety and Security in Schools, Assistant Superintendent Coleridge Minter.
right,
You're
and
the worst wife in life.
On the other side of the break, we catch up with the Sportsman of the Year. Please stay with us. Never, never. Marbell, we are
Yes.